In this video, we'll review the law of sines. The law of sines says that the sine of any angle compared to its side opposite will be consistent for any given triangle. That is, the sine of angle A, in this case, over the side opposite of it, which would be little a, or side CB, will equal the sine of angle B compared to its side opposite, either little b or side AC, and that will also equal the sine of angle C compared to its side opposite, little c, or side AB. The ratio of sine of the angle compared to the side opposite has to be consistent for the triangle. Now when we do this, we're not going to use all three parts. Instead, we'll look at it easier if we're comparing angles A and B. We'll look at it as the sine of angle A over side A equals the sine of angle B over side B. Or if we're given angles A and C, we'll go sine of angle A over side A equals the sine of angle C over side C. Or if we're comparing parts B and C, we'll say the sine of angle B over side B equals the sine of angle C over side C. We'll set it up as proportions. Proportions are two equal fractions. Now this is pretty useful because now we can do missing sides and angles for things that are not just right triangles. So this works for any triangle. If you have an obtuse triangle, scalene triangles, this will work. It does not have to be a right triangle anymore. Now it will work for right triangles, but it wouldn't be a very effective method because for right triangles, we can still use trig or Pythagorean theorem. It would work, but again, not very efficiently. So this is really for when it's not a right triangle. All right, so let's look at an example. I've got triangle ABC again, but now I've filled in some values. Here we're told that the measure of angle A is 53 degrees, and the measure of angle B is 39 degrees. We're also told that BC is 18 feet long, and we want to solve for little b, which would also be known as side AC. To do this problem, I got to make sure that I have an angle with the side opposite. So angle A, which was 53 degrees, has the 18 feet opposite it. When I set those up, those are going to go together. I also have the 39 degree angle, angle B, which has the side little b opposite. So when I do it, I'm going to say it's the sine of 53 degrees over the side opposite, which is the 18 feet, equals the sine of 39 degrees over its side opposite, which is the little b. So setting it up, it'll look like this. The sine of 53 degrees over its side opposite, which is the 18 feet, equals the sine of 39 degrees over its side opposite, which is that little b that I'm solving for. Now I want to make sure I justify this as the law of sines. And then to solve the proportion, I'll cross multiply. Cross multiplying means I'll multiply diagonally. B sine of 53 degrees equals, turn go the other way, 18 sine of 39 degrees. Now it doesn't matter which one comes first. I could take that 18 sine of 39 degrees and put that first and say that the 18 sine of 39 equals the B sine of 53 degrees. And it won't make a difference. My next step would be to isolate the variable, meaning I want to get B by itself. So to undo B times the sine of 53 degrees, we'll divide both sides by the sine of 53 degrees. And we get that B equals 18 sine of 39 degrees over the sine of 53 degrees. Now this is known as the exact answer. I'll now type my exact answer into the calculator and see what I get. To do this, I'll go 18 sine of 39 degrees and either close the parentheses and then divide by sine of 53 degrees, or I'll go 18 sine of 39 degrees, hit enter, and then divide by sine of 53 degrees and hit enter again. Either way that I'm going to get, B is about 14.18 feet. Now let's try a couple more examples. For these two, I'd like for you to pause the video, work them out, and then check your answers when you're done. Please work them out ahead of time to make sure you actually understand what's going on. Don't just watch the video and assume that you can do it. All right, so go ahead and try it. Now hopefully you've had a chance to actually work these problems out. So let's take a look at what we've got here. I've got the 50 degree angle, which has AB opposite of it, and that's what I'm trying to solve for. Now I also know that I have a 78 degree angle with 15 feet opposite of it. So when I do it, I'm going to say it's the sine of 78 degrees over the 15 feet equals the sine of 50 degrees over the piece I'm looking for, which in this case is AB. Again, make sure you justify. This is the law of sines. To solve it, I'll go ahead and cross multiply. AB times the sine of 78 degrees equals the 15 sine of 50 degrees. To isolate AB, I'll divide both sides by the sine of 78 degrees, and I get my exact answer. AB equals the 15 sine of 50 degrees, now divided by the sine of 78 degrees. Typing that into the calculator, 15 sine of 50, close the parentheses, divide by sine of 78 degrees, and hit enter. And I should get that AB is about 11.75 feet. For the next one, now we're looking for side BC. Angle A, which is the 37 degree angle, is opposite of side BC. So when I set it up, those are going to go together. Again, make sure we justify. It's the law of sines. And then go and write the problem. It's the sine of 62 degrees divided by its sine opposite, which is the 10, equals the sine of the 37 degree angle over its side opposite, in which case BC. We'll go ahead and cross multiply. This is BC sine of 62 degrees equals the 10 sine of 37 degrees. To get the exact answer, I need to solve for BC, which means I'll divide both sides by the sine of 62 degrees and get that BC is 10 sine of 37 degrees divided by the sine of 62 degrees. Typing that into the calculator, make sure I close the parentheses after the sine of 37 degrees, and then divide by sine of 62 degrees. I should get that BC is about 6.82 yards. Now we can actually use the law of sines to find a missing angle also. Here's an example. I want to find the measure of angle A. I know that I have all three sides, and I have one angle inside. I know that there's that 42-degree angle. That 42-degree angle is opposite of the 12, so I'll put those two together. I know this is going to be sine of 42 degrees over 12. Now that leaves me two other sides to choose from. Angle A is opposite of that 11-foot side, so I'm going to match those up. So when I do this, justifying it's a law of sines, and then setting it up, sine of 42 degrees over the 12 equals the sine of angle A, which is what I'm looking for, divided by its sine opposite, which in this case, that side opposite is 11. Now when I cross multiply, I'm going to get 12 sine of angle A equals 11 sine of 42 degrees. Now I can get the sine of angle A by itself by dividing both sides by 12. And I get the sine of angle A equals 11 sine of 42 degrees divided by 12. Now just like when we do regular trig, if you're trying to solve for the angle, you're going to have to use inverse trig, or in this case, the arc sine. So the measure of angle A is either the arc sine or the inverse sine of that whole quantity, 11 sine of 42 degrees divided by 12. And it's going to look like this. Again, the measure of the angle is the inverse sine or the arc sine of the whole quantity, 11 sine of 42 degrees divided by 12. So on the calculator, you can either type in inverse sine, 11 sine of 42 degrees, close the parentheses, divided by 12, hit enter and do it all in one step, or you can take the 11 sine of 42 degrees, close the parentheses, divided by 12, figure out what that decimal is, and then just go inverse sine, bring back the answer by going second answer, and hit enter. Either way, you should get the measure of the angle A is about 37.83 degrees. Now, when you're doing the law of sines, be careful. There are ambiguous cases to this. Sometimes the information you're given does not guarantee that you're actually going to find a single answer. Sometimes it's possible to find two answers. Now, in this case, I picked all these problems where I didn't have an ambiguous case. Every one of the problems except for this one, I had angle, angle, side, which guarantees that I have congruence of the triangle, meaning I can only have one possible answer for my side. So just be careful on the ambiguous case. All right. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope that it helps you understand how to do the law of sines.